Good morning, Greg here, burning both ends, burning on the front end of Tuesday. It is 5:42 Mountain Time. I'm in Lakewood, Colorado, finishing up this I-Core training. So last couple days, so today's day one of three. And this training is around technology transfer. So we're learning all about the lean startup model developed by Steve Blank. Really proud of our federal government for adopting this program. Several agencies deploy it, and I'm part of the DOE's deployment here, or the DOE's program. Yeah, so we're learning about lean startup, business model canvas, the ecosystem, and then of course the customer discovery interviews and pivoting and all that good stuff. And actually, last night I was three-hole punching the bulk of my handwritten notes from interviews, and it's quite a it's quite a tally. And what's really cool is like seeing each one. And I don't know how it works for you, but for me, writing things down is a very good way for me to learn and get things in my mind. And it also, I find it draws me to the experience, no pun intended. Right. So as I'm writing, of course, you know, I don't know, just the handwriting and seeing the words visually. And, I like to box things and even do some quick drop shadows. And I do these asterisks next to things that are actions. And, you got to turn that AC. I thought I just tried to get you off there. There we go. I don't know how loud that's going to be, but it seems pretty loud to me. So, but just like visually, it really helps me when I'm writing things down as opposed to typing things. I find that I'm a lot more retention from writing, and so it was very cool to see visually all these notes, and it brings me back to that point in time. It's very interesting. And then, of course, there are some of the interviews that were complete duds, which there's very little notes. And then there are the interviews that are 7 or 8 pages long that were incredible. Those interviews where you ask for 15 minutes and instead you get 90 or something like that. And you just want to keep going because this person is just pouring out some great information. Very, very cool to go through that. And so what I figured I would do this morning is just to give you a flavor for a day in one of these I-Core sessions, the closing session. And so what's cool is that they're very well organized. I find this to be extremely important, right? So here on day one, we got the schedule for essentially the entire program, right? The opening session, which was 4 days, the closing session, which is 3 days. And then each week we had a 2-hour seminar. So you imagine 6 2-hour seminars in between that, each with a presentation. Right, we have a presentation tomorrow. We have one on Thursday, and so what's critical is one of the presentations. What are the homework assignments? We have office hours with instructors, so all this stuff is kind of packed in here. And so this morning, let's just go through the day. So we have breakfast 7:45 to 8:30, and then we have just some welcome back remarks. We have a lecture on intellectual property basic training. Patents, copyrights, trademarks, protection strategies, requirements, writing a non-confidential summary, which I think is critical. And then we have a panel discussion. So there's lots of times, right? So where we have a lecture and then we have all the instructors get up and we just have a Q&A, which I think is wonderful. So then we have a panel discussion about lab partnerships, what makes a good partner. Then we have a little break, and then we have the business model canvas, so customer channels. And so what we've done with the canvas is we've taken each of the main pieces, and we'll have a whole discussion or a whole lecture on just one of those pieces and kind of how it plays, with the others and why it's important. And I definitely noticed with the business model canvas, there's a sequence to kind of going through it, right? It's not as helpful just to look at the whole thing and try to digest the whole thing. And I think that's why, in this program, and when I did the 8-day mini course, we really focus, for example, the 8-day, we just focus on value prop, customer segment, which makes sense because without these two things, the rest almost doesn't really matter, right? If you don't have a product or service that brings value to a specific customer, you don't have a business. It doesn't matter if you have a sales team, right? You're not selling anything, or partners, right? Because you're still not selling anything, right? So business model canvas, customer channels. What is the channel? Physical versus virtual channels, direct channels, indirect channels. All B2B, B2C. All of these critical paths to communicating about the business. Then we have a little breakout. We have a workshop about channels, and then of course lunch. And then we after lunch we come back. We have a lecture on landmines, just landmines in startup world, barriers to entry, policy, regulation. Think of all the things that can, regardless of like how well I execute my business, can just squash me, right? No matter what. Like for example, if you're building a building, the fire marshal can just squash anything, right? The fire marshal can come in and go, nope, I'm not giving you a certificate of occupancy. You can't have anyone in this building until you fix that fire code violation, right? Regulators, things, stuff like that. Let's see, and then we have a discussion about capital fundraising. So we have government fundraising. Let's see, is this all government highlights and fund opportunities? This looks like it's all about government funding, which is important, right? So government funding, there's good and bad in my experience, and I have direct experience with this. So the good is it's almost always going to be, non-equity funding. It's going to be, well thought out money, the right kind of money, right? Because you're going to, any proposal I send in, to the government for funding is going to be well reviewed. And so I know I'm going to be having the right people on the government side to interface with about what I'm trying to do. So I think that's very important. Some of the downsides is that, I'm on the government schedule, which can be tough. The government is a very patient organization, right? Especially with every year the budget not being voted on and a continuing resolution, and that can make things very tough. Even if for this I-Corps program, we were originally slated, I think, to be doing this like the month of May and finishing up in June. And for whatever reason, it got pushed out, and we started in June and finished in July. And so, not a huge deal for my personal schedule, but you can imagine other people, that's one small example, that making it difficult or impossible to do it. Whereas I could have done it when it was in May, but now that's in June, I can't do it. That is a pretty big shift. So that's, I'd say, the biggest downside to government funding is just being attached to their schedule, which, the market has its own schedule. Let's see, and then we're going to have a lecture. Okay, so that was a lecture about funding and federal funding. And then we have a lecture about cost. What are the most important costs inherent in an energy business model? What key resources are most expensive? So here we're reaching out into other areas of the business model canvas. What key activities are most expensive? That's another part of the business model canvas. Is your business more cost-driven or more value-driven? Like, in other words, am I going to compete on lowest cost widget out there, or am I going to provide the best value widget, right? And therefore, I have a higher price, right? Price and cost, right? Cost is what it costs me to make it. Cost is what it costs me to make it. Price is what I sell it for, right? And in theory, they should not be too related, right? I mean, obviously, price needs to be higher than cost, but price should be based on the value that I bring to the market, not what my cost is. That way, the two can operate independently, right? And which I think is important. That way, if I'm doing it right, I'm not so affected if for some reason my cost goes up a little bit because of some material cost or some service gets more expensive or something like that. But if you're on a cost-driven model, that's the game that you're playing. You're playing that game of, I'm going to buy this resistor instead of that one because it's a half a penny cheaper, stuff like that. But I can definitely say that the area that we're looking at for our technology, we're definitely in a super high value business. We are not in a cost business. We need to deliver performance, like severe performance. So, and we're going to make them pay for it. All right, so we got a cost lecture, a little break, and then a lecture on building the team. What does it take to build a great startup team? And this is what I've learned is like so critical. This is essentially what the early investors are betting on. Not so much the technology or the idea, because it's not proven at that point. Unless you have a stack of customer, actually, you would need to have more than a stack of customer discovery interviews. You would need to have a stack of purchase orders, signed purchase orders, right? To really say, hey, look, I've retired the risk of this product because look, I have this stack of purchase orders. But usually in the beginning, it's just, a good amount of market data, hopefully direct data, and then a team. And a good understanding, especially of the cost model, I'd say. That was one of the things. I was watching one of the Shark Tank folks or hosts give a chat about about some of the very successful teams. And he said that one common trait amongst all the successful teams is that they knew their numbers inside and out, backwards and forwards, upsides and downsides. They just knew every aspect of their price model, their cost model. And I think that's important. All right, where are we? So anyway, so it's that team, right? That's what is going to get those early investor dollars, and that's also what's going to like just grind through the milestones to get the next set of dollars. All right, so what are the questions here? What does it take to build a great startup team? Who are the key players and personalities that you need to grow your team? What if your team isn't working out? That can be challenging. And then a panel discussion. So now we're kind of getting into late afternoon here, 4:15 to 5:15 discussion with startup veterans and early stage entrepreneurs. That should be cool. And then tonight we have some team time just to work on our, we have just under 2 hours to work on our presentations for tomorrow with faculty to get some feedback, right? We really want to work on our storytelling. And so I'm really focusing on storytelling for this presentation tomorrow. And then 7:30 and 9 p.m. we meet one-on-one with the faculty. So that's a day in the life. That's this first Tuesday. And that was a pretty typical day from the opening session. Now, I think we did presentations every day at the opening session, whereas this, now we just have one tomorrow and then one on Thursday. So it should be pretty cool. So that's what the I-Corps program is about. Really think that they're putting out great material. Really, the instructors are very well seasoned, very good people. The program folks are awesome as far as people that run the program. And looking forward to jumping into to Tuesday and getting my I-Corps on. So let's see. In the description, you'll find some motivational links. You'll find some music. You'll find some Ents. Ents is this this voice-based social media platform that I'm involved in. You'll find a link to the beat that's usually in the background, but it's not because I'm on my Chromebook and I don't have the ability to add the music the way I like. Yeah, and then the whole point of this channel, this is my entrepreneurial journey. This is I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. As I've been saying lately on these phone calls for the interviews, I'm an engineer by day and an aspiring entrepreneur by night. People kind of like that. So this is about my journey. I'm really enjoying it. It's really helped me elevate my game, really focusing on the business side of things and sharpening that sword. So this is my journey. I'd love to hear from you. Subscribe if you like what you hear. Tell me about what you're up to. I'd love to be of service. So if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Would love to try to help as best as I could. So it's Tuesday. Go out, crush the day, light it up, inspire folks, do great things, and I will see you tonight.